Grüß, willkommen in einem anderen Fragens video. Welcome to another exciting video, in this case episode 9 of my equipment series of videos. This video will be covering Polish World War II artillery, anti-tank guns and anti-aircraft guns. What I'm going to be attempting to do in this video is to provide an overview of the artillery, howitzers and guns, anti-tank guns and anti-aircraft guns used by the Polish Army in World War II, specifically during the September-October period in 1939. The CKM WZ-30, or Heavy Machine Gun 1930 pattern, is a Polish-made clone of the American Browning M1917 heavy machine gun. To allow this weapon to be used in an anti-aircraft mode, a new mounting was adapted with a mast for anti-aircraft fire. Again, fast-moving aircraft, against fast-moving aircraft, its effectiveness was not that good. But this was likely the main light anti-aircraft weapon of the Polish Army in 1939. The Bofors 40mm gun is a Swedish-designed, locally manufactured anti-aircraft gun, the WZ-36 in Polish service. Poland initially purchased this weapon directly from Sweden in 1936, but Poland then developed its own version of the Bofors gun, contributing a lighter carriage, which was later adopted by the British, or creating a lighter carriage. Only 36 locally designed guns were available in 1939, the bulk being the Swedish-sourced weapon. The 75mm WZ-36 was a Polish-designed and built anti-aircraft gun. 460 were ordered, but only 452 were delivered. We're now moving to the anti-tank guns, and the Bofors 37mm anti-tank gun is a Swedish-designed, locally manufactured anti-tank gun. The Polish army was lavishly equipped with this rather effective weapon, which gave the Germans a lot of grief. We'll now move to the mortars. The Granik WZ-36 is a light mortar used to provide company-level indirect fire. Crewed by 3 to 5 men, depending on the number of ammo carriers, it was a serviceable weapon which did give the Polish infantry some local indirect fire capability. The Brandt Model 27/31 was a French medium mortar designed to provide battalion-level indirect support. Crewed by 5 to 7 men, depending on the number of ammo carriers, it had good range and was a highly effective mortar. The Polish army sourced 105 of these weapons from France. However, the bulk of the 905 mortars available in 1939 were locally manufactured. We'll now be moving to howitzers, starting with the 65mm mountain gun. The 65mm WZ-1906 mountain gun was based on the French Canon D65M model 1906, or the 65mm model 1906. The number that the Polish possessed is unknown, and it was likely probably deployed, if they were deployed at all, into the mountain brigades that were deployed down south. The other mountain howitzer that the Polish used was the WZ-26 7.5cm artillery cannon. It was a version of the Canon D75M from France, model 1928. Once again, any would have been deployed in the 2 or 3 mountain brigades that were deployed in the south of the country. The 100mm WZ-1914/19 was a mountain howitzer based on the Skoda 17/19 mountain howitzer. The Polish army had about 125 of these howitzers in 1939. While originally a weapon designed for mountain troop use, this weapon was deployed in the Polish infantry divisions. The 105mm Armata WZ-1913 was a French-built Canon D105 model 1913 Schneider howitzer modified by the Polish army. The Polish army had about 118 of these howitzers in 1939. The 105mm Armata WZ-1939 was a more modern version of the earlier 105mm weapon. It was a medium artillery gun and an improved version of the Canon D105 model 1913 Schneider. The Polish army possessed between 40 to 48 of these howitzers in 1939. The 120mm WZ-1878/9/31 was a medium field artillery piece based on the French 120mm M1978. The Polish army only had 43 of these weapons, and they were typically at army or corps level. The 155mm WZ-1917 howitzer was based on the Kunin D155C model 1917 Schneider. The Polish manufactured these guns locally, but only in low numbers. Most of the others were provided directly from France. On the 1st of October 1920, there were 206 French 155mm howitzers in total. 89 of them were used in 26 batteries, the rest were in reserve. In 1938, there were 316 in infantry, and in August 1939, there were 340. The 220mm WZ-32 Škoda mortar was a 220mm howitzer, which the Polish army obtained from Czechoslovakia. In October 1929, a Polish delegation evaluated the design for purchase. The contract to deliver 27 artillery pieces to Poland was signed in 1933, with actual deliveries happening around between 1934 to 1935. At least 14 Škoda 220mm howitzers were captured by German forces from Poland in September 1939. This represented the heaviest weapon in the Polish artillery force. Moving to the guns, the 75mm Armata WZ-1897 was a field gun based on the French 75mm M1897. It was the most numerous artillery piece in the Polish army in 1939. The Armata 75mm WZ-02/26 was a light field gun used by Poland before and during World War II. It began life as the 76mm divisional gun M1902, a Russian light field gun used in the Russian-Japanese War, World War I, Russian Civil War, and the Polish-Soviet War. Poland captured large numbers of the M1902 guns in the Polish-Soviet War and pressed them into service as a standard piece of mounted artillery, designated the Armata 76.2mm WZ-1902. In 1923, there were 568 WZ-1902 guns in the Polish inventory. Between 1926 and 1930, most surviving 76.2mm WZ-1902 guns were rechambered to use the same 75mm shell as the most numerous Polish field gun. Let's now look at where these weapons were deployed within the Polish army. The Polish Infantry Division had an artillery regiment which consisted of 2 battalions of 12 75mm guns and 1 battalion of 12 100mm howitzers. In addition, each infantry regiment contained 2 81mm mortars, 2 75mm guns and 9 37mm anti-tank weapons. In addition to the regimental anti-tank guns, each infantry division had a battery of 9 37mm anti-tank guns at divisional level. Apart from the anti-aircraft machine guns, there were no anti-aircraft guns directly attached to the division. Moving to the Polish Cavalry Brigade, each Polish Cavalry Brigade contained an artillery battalion consisting of 16 75mm guns. At brigade level, there were 2 37mm anti-tank guns and 2 40mm anti-aircraft weapons. Each cavalry regiment contained 4 37mm anti-tank guns. Each motorised infantry battalion contained 2 81mm mortars. Moving to the mechanised brigades, the 10th Mechanised Brigade contained an artillery battalion of 4 75mm guns and 100mm howitzers, all towed by trucks. At brigade level, there was an anti-tank battery of 4 37mm anti-tank guns and another battery of 18 37mm anti-tank guns. I'm uncertain why this structure existed unless the tows were different. Finally, we have 2 40mm anti-aircraft guns. This gave this brigade significant anti-tank capability. The mechanised battalion within the mechanised brigade contained 3 37mm anti-tank guns and 2 81mm mortars. Let's look at the Polish Mountain Brigade. Now, I lack an official TO&E for the Polish Mountain Brigade, but I have to assume these contain the 65mm and 75mm mountain howitzers. We'll now move to the corps or possibly army level. Now, once again, I lack any reliable or common TO&Es for corps or group level supporting formation. Once again, I have to assume all the heavier artillery, such as the 220mm howitzers, 120mm howitzers, and 155mm howitzers, were allocated this level. The 75mm anti-aircraft guns would have been placed at this level as well as a number of smaller anti-aircraft gun formations. While I make no attempt at convincing anyone this is an in-depth and historically accurate painting guide, this slide, or image, is a good starting place for anyone wishing to paint up their Polish artillery. And so we come to a close of my episode 9 of my equipment series of videos, in this case Polish World War II artillery, anti-tank guns and anti-aircraft guns. Alle guten Dinge kommen zu einem Ende.